Hey everyone, this is ASMRT, and today we're going to do something that I've kind of wanted to do for a while because it was something I never got to do when I was in school, even though it seems like it's a pretty common thing for school science classes to do, and that is to take apart an owl pellet. And when I did a search on YouTube, it seemed like there were two other ASMR folks that have done a video like this before, at least from what I could find from a quick look. And I believe that was Mr. Tattoo ASMR and Snow Bunny ASMR. So I decided I would go ahead and do my own video since it seemed like there hadn't been a ton of people doing this. And it may not be for you. So an owl pellet is when an owl eats their food, they take all the stuff that they're not going to digest, which is like the fur and bone, and they cough it back up in a pellet. So if that's not something you want to see, then this video is not for you. But for me, I find it fascinating and not at all grossed out by it. I do have some gloves here, which I will probably start with, but we'll see whether I keep them on or not. I was using a pair of these earlier today, and my fingernail poked through the end of the glove, and so we'll see whether I keep them on or not. I figure with the pandemic going on, we've all gotten very, very good at washing our hands, so that's not a huge problem, and these have all been heat treated to sterilize them anyway. So to start off, just want to read over the little pamphlet that I received. It says, carefully unwrap your owl pellet on a clean working surface. Inspect your pellet. Note size, bones, feathers, whitewash, or any clues about where the pellet came from. You are a scientist. Very gently pull apart your pellet, being very careful not to break any bones. Some teachers prefer to soak the pellet in water, others prefer to work with a dry pellet. I'm going to start off trying one dry. If that doesn't work, I may soak one and then try again. Carefully separate the bones from the fur or feathers. Teasing needles or toothpicks work well. I have some little pointed wood sticks here, and then I also grabbed one of the tweezers from a diamond painting kit because they're nice and sharp, as people who have used these tweezers well know, and because they come with so many of the square kits, I certainly don't mind using a pair for this. Okay, take special care removing skulls and jaws because they are the best way to identify the animals. Look for evidence of the wool-eating moth life cycle, eggs which are tiny pupa casings, cocoons, or larvae. Roll the last bits of fur between your fingers to find little bones or teeth that may have been overlooked. Try to lay out or reconstruct the skeletons of the animals you have found. Identify the animals. How many animals in each pellet? And then they have just a little chart on the back here, so I will keep this out, set this aside. And once I start in on one, I'll bring the camera in so you can see close up. One thing I wanted to mention, this was just a little catalog from the place that I got them from. What they offered was these are our barn owl pellets, and they had small, large, and then ones they labeled as California, because they come from places, I guess, more arid than the Pacific Northwest, so there's things about those pellets that are different. But these are large barn owl pellets from the Pacific Northwest. So that's what I have here. When I was looking through their site, there was one thing that I noticed that, oh no, I wasn't sure. At first I didn't like the idea, but I may have changed my mind a little bit. So they have this thing called perfect pellets, which are replica pellets that have, I guess, plastic bones in them, and what they say, okay, this pellet replica is manufactured using state-of-the-art plastics technology. Each synthetic pellet contains a virtually complete replica of one of the common barn owl's prey species, either the rodent, mole, or bird skeleton. It is a bit easier to dissect than organic owl pellets. The same great lab can be experienced without the confusion of partial or multiple animal skeletons. So my first thought was, why create more plastic when you don't have to, when you have this organic material that already exists out there in the world, because owls have to eat. So these aren't animals that are being killed specifically for, dissection and teaching. These are animals that are being killed because an owl has to eat. But I guess as long as, if these are being used like in a school setting, if after you use them, if it's either something that maybe the kids are either keeping for themselves, or if there's something that can be reused over and over again for classes, then I can understand using that. And as I say, it is a more complete skeleton. So that sort of changed my mind a bit, because if you can reuse it, that's one thing, but I don't like the idea of it being more plastic generated for a one-time use and then just being tossed in the trash. But that is also an option. But these here are actual pellets from actual owls. The other thing I should mention is that I obviously don't have any tea with me today. I did grab my water bottle in case my voice gets a little froggy, but I don't want an open mug of tea sitting here while I'm working on this stuff. So, okay, let's dive in. So wrapped up in foil. See what we got here. I know from watching Mr. Tattoo's video, oh, this looks like we've got part of a jaw right here. I know from his video, he mentioned that things are very fragile, so you want to be very careful and patient. That looks like a lower, part of a lower mandible, I think. Is that it? part of a jaw with a... Is that a tooth? That's not going to focus in. Okay, yeah, that is, because I see there's little teeth there, and then probably a rodent. Got more teeth, there. I know with the lighting I have, it may not be the easiest to see in detail, so I will, at the end, I'll do something with different lighting to make sure that everything is a little more visible. I'm not sure if the camera is focusing where I want it to, so I may have to make some adjustments here, but there's already and more bits and pieces. Maybe a vertebra of some sort. Try to adjust the camera a little more here. Okay, hopefully that's a bit better. I was hoping to keep the mood lighting, but that may not work as I'd hoped. Okay. See, there's lots of bones down on that side. If that's the other, go for this and gently pick out. Tiny bones. Tiny bones from tiny animals. I may, with how small some of these are, I may not get everything. See, like even that, which is not, but I have a very, very tiny bone. You know, when I received these in the mail, I took the foil wrap pellets and I put them in a Ziploc bag, and when I had first opened the box I didn't notice any smell, but when I opened up the Ziploc bag a few hours later, because these just arrived earlier today, I did notice an odor, and I notice a slight odor now. It's not horrible or anything, but there is a bit of smell. Oh, there's another bone. Very tiny bones. Oh, I'm seeing more here that I didn't notice before. These must be ribs. 2 of them right there. Add them to the pile. It's just very full of very small bones. There's something larger there. Again, I'm trying to be careful to both get things out in a somewhat timely fashion, but trying not to destroy what's there in the process. Oh, look what's hiding under this flap. Well, it looks to be this a scapula. Try to be very careful. Wow. I don't want to break that, but or no, this I think is not scapula. It is the, what is this? Say the innominate, according to the little chart I have over here, because that I think is for the back leg. That appears to be the socket where you'd have the end of the femur fitting in there. So this here is kind of the hip. I'll set that there. Yeah, I thought I might take more than one of these apart for a video, but seeing how long I've already filmed just working on this one, it will probably just be this one and then edit it down. But obviously I have plenty more pellets, so I will probably do more videos in the future. I don't know how much people will like a video like this, but I know I'm finding it interesting to just sit and focus on carefully picking through this. More jaw. Look at that. Is it gonna focus? No, it's not. Okay. Should be able to see the teeth. Little teeth and the incisor there. Those. Let's see if I can, come on, focus. You can see that those are some incisors right there. Okay, let's see here. Guessing what I have in my hand here is maybe the skull, the upper part of the skull, hopefully intact. Okay. And these are, you can just sort of feel as you're through that the bones are very fragile. So you just want to be so very careful. efforts will be rewarded here. I didn't show it in the video, but I did also pick up a book that kind of shows some of the skulls for these kinds of, mice and voles in the Pacific Northwest. So maybe with this, after I go through, before the video gets posted, if I'm able to maybe identify to the best of my ability what it is, I'll add that in to the video before it goes up. I think this did get somewhat damaged in the process, but trying my best to be so careful. Here you can see there's the upper teeth in the back there. Okay, I'm going to set this to the side, and I believe from proximity, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess that lower jaw goes with that skull. And those are the bits that, in my clumsiness, I broke. You can see the incisors. There. Feels like there may be some other kind of sizable things, but again, I want to be careful. No. Obviously, it's from the multiple skulls and jaws. I know we've got multiple prey animals in here. Oh, look at that. That just jumped out. Another lower jaw. I'm just going to have to accept that some of the stuff I'm not going to be able to save because some of it is so very fragile. Oh, is that that's a tiny tooth. I don't know what that. See, but I wonder if that there is a teeny tiny tooth. Perhaps. It looked like there were little roots on it. Hey everyone. When I was going through the owl pellet, my camera battery died, and I was kind of so involved in what I was doing, I decided to just keep going along. So I went through and finished going through it. This is actually the next day now, but what I have here is everything that I took out of just that one single pellet. And I'm sure I missed a lot of small bones. There were some little ones that when I was kind of saving everything, I didn't keep absolutely everything. And I haven't sorted everything out, but you can see there was actually quite a lot just in that single pellet. What's up here, this skull and the mandibles, and that was at the back of the skull, and there's one tooth that came out of one of the mandibles here. Those were all together, so I believe they're all part of one skull, and those two mandibles were together, so I think they're from the same animal, although not necessarily, because everything was really mixed up in there. See, there's a whole bunch of ribs, there's a lot of vertebrae, a number of different other mandibles, including these up here. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mandibles that are probably from various animals. There's another one here that I believe went with this skull, so we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 skulls. Lots of various leg bones that I haven't tried to separate out, ribs, vertebra, and I'll probably insert some close-up photos as well. But you can see that, you've got the teeth on this skull. They don't have the separate roots, but like I showed as I was going through it there, you can see some of the teeth that have the little roots on them, and then one that doesn't, kind of right next to each other, so you can see the comparison. But man, there's a lot of stuff packed in just that one pellet, and it was not even one of the biggest ones out of the ones that I got. So I'm going to set this over to the side here, and I sanitized my working surface, and I will do so again after going through this today. But I also got this book when I got the owl pellets, because I thought, it seemed like a more kind of scientific book, and I wanted to know more about what I was looking at. So I certainly haven't read through this whole thing, but it does have kind of detailed drawings, the skulls, and kind of keys to go through to look at various things to try and, pinpoint exactly what species different skulls are, what they are. So earlier today, I sat down and I was looking specifically at this skull, since I had the skull and the mandibles, that all this seemed to go together, and the one tooth had come out, so I could tell that it didn't have the roots on it. And I sat down and I spent quite a long time going through this book and looking at stuff, and my conclusion is that it's probably a vole, but I really don't know what species it is. And I'll find the there was something in here that mentioned that it can be very, very difficult to tell the species apart. Didn't realize I had a cord in the shot there. So reading over that, at that point, I kind of gave up trying to be very specific about that, and I didn't go and look through the other skulls. Maybe that's something I'll do in the future, but I didn't want to spend all that time for this particular video. But there's just a couple things I wanted to mention that I found in this book. The other thing that might have helped is that if I had found like this owl pellet myself in the wild, so that I knew exactly where it had come from, that might have helped me pinpoint things a bit more, because some of the information in this book, it like shows a map of the Pacific Northwest and has things labeled in zones, and kind of tells you if you have, bones that come from that specific, area, what species you are likely to find there. And this goes into more information as far as, if you actually know what the animal looked like when alive, like coloration and all that, which obviously with the bones you're not going to know. But the molar, the teeth information, both about, the incisors and the various molars, there was some interesting stuff there, and I don't know enough about it, and haven't looked at stuff enough to get a real good feel, but they have detailed information about the teeth and what certain things look like, the number of like enamel loops and all this stuff. But the molar teeth, so the two different types that I found in there, says there are two types, hypsodont and brachiodont. Hypsodont molar teeth have high crowns and short, constantly growing roots. So that's like those that have where there's not kind of separate roots on them like you see with like a human molar. Such teeth under normal conditions do not appear to wear down with age or diet. Hypsodont molars are found in, and I'm not certain I'm going to be pronouncing these right, but I will try, Microtus, Legerus, and Synaptomus. Brachiodont molar teeth have low crowns and well-developed roots in adult animals. The development of roots can also be detected in juvenile individuals. They exhibit various degrees of wear corresponding with the diet and age of the individual. Such wear may grossly alter the appearance of the molar crowns. The following genera have brachiodont molars. Let's see. Clethrionomus, Arboremus, Phoenocomus, and Ondatra. But here you can see, again, like the ones I found, where you have the hypsodont and the brachiodont that has the separate roots there. And there was also information about if you find a skull without teeth, sometimes if you look down and look at the sockets, that you could figure out what type of teeth they were, and that would probably be much easier if you had like some kind of a magnifying glass to look in there. So from looking at this, since that skull had the hypsodont molars, I know at least from that it's either going to be an animal that's, in either among Microtus, Laguris, or Synaptimus. And looking back in here, so it goes into all information. So if you have the animal, if you know tail length and coloration and all that, you can look through and kind of narrow down what you're looking at. So let's see here. I think it was one I was looking under. Okay, so I think when I was looking under my Microtus, I had seen this here where it said there are 8 species of the genus Microtus within the area considered by this key. These 8 species will be the most problematic of all the microteens that occur in Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. As stated in the key to the genera, Microtus is a highly variable genus. The species are either so similar when considered collectively, or so different, variable within a single species, that most students find them almost impossible to identify. However, the various species are relatively consistent in their habitat preferences. So, when I read that, and here's sort of where they have the various ranges, so that if you know what area something was found in, you can look up underneath that particular area of the map and then see what species are found in that area. But when I saw that it says most students find them almost impossible to identify because they're all very similar, but individual animals can vary enough that it makes it very hard to look at one and say definitively this is definitely one of these, then I no longer felt so bad for not being able to figure out what that was. And that's sort of when I decided to stop spending so much time trying to pinpoint exactly the species. And it's things like looking at the teeth, like right upper third molar, and looking at the top down on the skull and seeing how far out the incisors do or don't protrude beyond the nasal bones. And all kinds of very detailed information. And I think this is very interesting and good, to look through. But I also realize that never having done this before, my chances of being able to pinpoint weren't going to be that high. But I figure that it's some type of vole. And then for each species, they'll show like the skull top down, and underneath you're looking at the molars on the roof out there. Then a side view, the skull with the mandible, and then looking kind of where the incisors there. I don't know how much has changed since this was published, because I think this was in, is it late? Okay, so this was reprinted in 2002, but it was originally published by the OSU bookstores and that was back in 1970. So I don't know what has or hasn't changed as far as distribution of species just over time, and with people encroaching in areas, how that has shifted where these animals are. Yeah. And I'll have to look over this more in the future, particularly as I go through more of the pellets. And there's definitely a lot to be found in there. And yeah, I thought it was a very fascinating experience just to see how much can be compacted into one of those pellets. And just on a sort of general learning level, as well as something a little spooky for Halloween if you're not normally into something like this. But maybe at some point down the road I'll do another video if people enjoy this, and if not, I'll find some time just to go through for my own enjoyment. So I hope you found this interesting. Maybe you learned a little something, and maybe it's something that you would want to try yourself. I think especially if you have kids and you're trying to do something educational for them as you're stuck at home, as so many of us still are. So thank you so much for watching, and definitely I hope you've been enjoying the sort of Halloween themed videos I've had so far this month, and there are definitely more to come. So see you in the next video.